Sung Jin Woo glanced at the remaining time, realizing he had no time to plan. He could only face the system head-on. So what if he has more hands? The outcome of this life-and-death battle is still uncertain, Sung Jin Woo thought. He reminded himself that he must succeed, must survive to protect what he wants. He charged at the system with a chaotic attack. It felt like the power within his body responded, his thoughts striking like a heartbeat. Sung Jin Woo sensed his senses becoming sharper, perceiving every movement of the system and anticipating its weapon strikes. The system was astonished by Sung Jin Woo's sudden transformation. Not only did he evade the system's most powerful attacks, but he also launched continuous counterattacks at an increasingly faster pace. How was this possible? Was the system malfunctioning? Quickly, Sung Jin Woo severed the system's first hand. He couldn't believe his eyes as he looked at his own hands, realizing that although they were just shells, he had never imagined a human could cause such damage to his body. Suddenly, he understood why the system had chosen him. He could see within Sung Jin Woo's body a surge of power that didn't belong to him. He felt furious. He was just an ordinary person, a pawn in his design, yet he dared to defy him, the creator of the system. "Stand up and respect me. Rid yourself of this pesky human spirit," he exclaimed. Ignoring everything else, Sung Jin Woo was determined to kill the system. With a chaotic sword technique, he severed more of its hands. Although Sung Jin Woo managed to dodge most of the system's attacks, he still got hit by a stone shield from behind, the same person who had broken his leg earlier. He leaped up and crushed the person's skull, then turned to face the system, slicing off its remaining hands. With 2 minutes and 14 seconds remaining, Sung Jin Woo's sword was at the system's neck. It had lost the trial. The experiment ended. The system, the player's nurturer, possessing superior capabilities, had been defeated by the player it nurtured. It kept its promise, telling Sung Jin Woo that the answer lay within him. It unlocked Sung Jin Woo's memories, allowing him to decide for himself. Though Sung Jin Woo didn't trust the system, he accepted because he wanted to find the truth. Suddenly, a blinding light appeared, and following it, he arrived at a place resembling hell, with a horde of demonic creatures in the underground cavern, all looking up at the sky as if observing something. Sung Jin Woo looked up in the direction they were gazing. Seconds later, he was stunned. In the sky, he saw several massive violet-colored teleportation gates connected to each other by the demonic creatures. They seemed to be waiting for something. From within those gates, what could it be? It felt like a great battle was taking place, ready to commence at any moment. They were the vanguards, led by the Snowfall Vanguard, giant blue demons, and thousands of evil giants. If this power were to invade the human world, humanity would face extinction. However, it seemed they were not facing humans. Only the teleportation gates stood, forming an invisible barrier, like a shield extending from the gates. Countless winged warriors, like silver angels from the 9th heaven, descended to the earthly realm, and the battle began. With the appearance of the silver angels, the monsters gathered to fight against the silver soldiers. The clash of weapons, the shattering of armor, echoed ceaselessly, quickly followed by screams turning into cries, and the ground was stained red. The silver soldiers were formidable. As the monsters were almost completely wiped out, the silver soldiers suddenly halted from a distance. A shadow as dark as ink emerged on the battlefield and employed a skill of his profession. Unlike drawing out darkness, his domain flowed throughout the battlefield, with thousands of shadows abound. Only one person could achieve such a feat, the Shadow Monarch. Seeing such a vast number, Sung Jin Woo felt that even his small warriors couldn't boast. The dark creatures quickly retreated from the silver soldiers. Even if pierced by their bodies, they could swiftly regenerate. The two opposing forces continued their chaotic battle, the thunderous clashes shaking the heavens and earth. Initially, the silver soldiers should have been the ones slaying the monsters, But with the arrival of the Shadow Monarch, the war's dynamics shifted. Riding his mighty steed, he swung his sword, leading the charge across the battlefield, each stroke claiming the lives of several silver soldiers, a display of dominance and power, decimating many silver soldiers from afar. The Dark Warriors were continuously destroyed, only to be reborn endlessly, tormenting the enemies wherever the monarch passed like a raging storm. It was the victory of the Dark Forces, and also the triumph of the Shadow Monarch. They received an urgent call from the Hunter Association. Hunter S and Team 5, the Elite, swiftly arrived at the entrance of the Twin Caves. They sensed a power unlike anything they had felt before, but it wasn't from Sung Jin Woo. The team leader was puzzled because Sung Jin Woo had stated that he wasn't the one who conquered the Twin Caves. So why was he here again, risking it once more? As the large door opened, they saw the rubble of Caesar-Frun stone scattered on the floor. Finally, they witnessed Caesar-Frun stone and were surprised to hear it recounted by the survivor. "It seems we haven't invited humans here," a clear voice rang out, grabbing everyone's attention. They saw the stone idol supposed to speak, but it remained silent. Then the designer, with a wicked smile, made a commanding gesture for everyone to stay silent and not disturb the king's sleep. A chill ran through everyone. The stone idol, supposed to speak, remained silent and didn't utter a word. The designer spoke in the language of humans, commanding everyone to stay silent and not disturb the king's sleep. They saw an image standing amidst the shrine. It was Sung Jin Woo. The designer, with a cold tone, addressed everyone before him, stating that the king dared to cause trouble. He referred to Sung Jin Woo as the first gift created to offer the king. Sung Jin Woo at this moment was not bad in Sung Jin Woo's memory. He looked at his hand, then at his body. Suddenly, a series of black question marks appeared in his head. When did I become like this? Why do I always fail to notice? In his body, he had a rotten black heart, pulsing wildly with immense power. But he didn't know that his heart had died since he first entered the Twin Caves. The system had placed the Dark King's heart in him, allowing his life to be prolonged until now. All of this was pre-designed. He suddenly noticed a stronger magical power emanating from the teleporter. From the teleporter emerged many more silver angels, each with 6 pairs of wings, wearing warrior armor, and their identities were anything but ordinary. They were the true power of the Dark King. With just a wave of his hand, thousands of knights rose. The angels who once held supreme power were now mere sacrificial warriors. While Sung Jin Woo watched the battle, the hunters in the shrine were in danger as the system mercilessly slaughtered them, disrupting the king's sleep. Choi Jong-in ordered everyone to adjust their forces and move the wounded to the rear. They saw the stone idols that Sung Jin Woo defeated rise again, including the evil spirits with destructive power. The system informed everyone that if they could defeat all his puppets and survive, there would be a chance to witness the king's rebirth. Even if there was only one person left, only evil spirit blinked, sending out a huge laser from his eyes, creating a large rift in the ground, and those hunters who could not escape were vaporized. The chairman, Choi, moved quickly, energy crackling on his hands. Several flames struck the face of the evil spirit, then he ordered everyone to attack swiftly. The small soldiers punched the stone idol hard in the face, but it didn't budge. Choi instructed them to step back, then exploded flames on the face of the evil spirit, but still not a scratch appeared. Not only that, but the provocation skills of teammates, low-level thought magic, had no effect. Whether physical or magical attacks, they were ineffective against them. The only option was to call for Sung Jin Woo. As Sung Jin Woo woke up, he seemed to be enchanted, completely unaffected by the commotion around him. So the only way left was to use force. Choi Jong-in threw a small fireball towards him, but when the fireball was about to reach the system, it rushed to intercept it angrily berating Choi Jong-in for disturbing the king's sleep. Then it approached Choi Jong-in menacingly. Choi Jong-in was under intense pressure, frozen in place. At that moment, several figures dashed past him, including the chief and 2 other hunters. They lunged at the system. The chief shouted for Cha-hain to wake Sung Jin Woo up quickly, but everyone, including the chief, was no match for the system. Before Choi Jong-in could reach Sung Jin Woo, the system blocked his path, declaring that they must defeat it before passing. Choi Jong-in didn't say a word, immediately using his skills. However, the system only needed one hand to easily block all of her attacks and managed to strike her with a blow. It mocked the group, finding them boring, too insignificant to provide any entertainment. Humans are too small to be of any help. I am perfect, it boasted. The system could predict every situation and had strategies for dealing with the petty thoughts of the humans. It seemed like there would be no other outcome. Suddenly, a burst of flames struck the system's head, breaking a corner of it. Choi Jong-in stood there weary, his hands still smoldering. He instructed Cha-hain that they must awaken Sung Jin Woo at any cost, as there was no other way. Despite being injured, Cha-hain tried to run towards Sung Jin Woo, but the system didn't stay still. It vanished, then reappeared next to her, its claws ready to tighten around her. At that moment, a familiar voice resounded, asking who allowed it. Before it could react, a powerful punch landed on the system's face, causing it to crumble into pieces in an instant. Sung Jin Woo angrily questioned the system, demanding to know what it had done to his body. Choi Jong-in let out a sigh of relief, finally regaining consciousness. The system, knocked down by the punch, looked bewildered as Sung Jin Woo stepped on him. Why not the Dark King? Why not the king? It muttered in surprise, referring to Sung Jin Woo. It wondered why Sung Jin Woo, who activated the dark heart within himself, remained conscious. Looking at the darkened heart within him, Sung Jin Woo realized that the system was referring to him. He had gained 100,000 magic points thanks to this heart, but now it seemed it was meant to control him, to awaken the power within him. Despite this, Sung Jin Woo remained fully conscious, showing no signs of replacement. The system became even more confused when faced with this unexpected outcome. But then it understood. The Dark King had been treated unfairly. Sung Jin Woo asked why it was treating him this way, and if it thought other kings would just stand by. Alongside Sung Jin Woo, numerous transmission gates appeared, unleashing various weapons aimed directly at the system. Sung Jin Woo threatened the system, demanding answers to his questions, but it didn't respond. Instead, it growled at Caesafron. The stones surrounding Caesafron, which were holding musical instruments, began to move. He told Sung Jin Woo that if he killed him, no one could stop these stone statues. Nevertheless, Sung Jin Woo knew he had to kill him. He asked Caesafron if he thought that by killing the system, it would disappear and he would return to being an E-rank hunter. Sung Jin Woo had considered this possibility for a long time. Even if the system vanished, the structure it had formed wouldn't disappear. The system panicked, refusing to believe that even under coercion, it could still be destroyed. Suddenly, countless windows appeared, leaving the system stunned. Sung Jin Woo explained that since the system started, he had wanted to resist it, even destroy it. However, he changed his mind when the system started to exploit him. Sung Jin Woo enacted revenge using the system's own tactics against it, step by step, subjugating it and turning it into a treasure that even the system couldn't control. Regardless, the system's plan had failed, and its design was flawed. Sung Jin Woo, cold and indifferent, watched as countless swords pierced through the system's body, slicing it into 5 pieces. Before dying, the system made its final prediction. When the towering flames burned, unavoidable death would come. But Sung Jin Woo only smirked coldly, waiting to see what would happen. Even as the system's designer, It never imagined that its proud design would be so flawed, not only being subjugated, but also being killed by the user. Outside the transmission gate, people were anxiously waiting. It had been an hour since Hunter Team 5 entered, but the situation inside was still unclear. Suddenly, many figures emerged from the gate, their bodies covered in wounds, exhaustion evident on their faces. Even Choi Jong-in and Cha-hain, both S-rank hunters, had to support each other. The hunters' valiant spirits sent chills down everyone's spine. If the elite forces of the Hunter Association were in such a state, it spelled doom for those inside. The head of the association suggested that other hunters assist in carrying the bodies. Sung Jin Woo also stepped out of the gate. Despite encountering the system's designer, he only gained vague hints about the truth, leaving many questions unanswered. It seemed like there was a bigger story hidden behind the scenes, but one thing was certain. The heart of the Dark Emperor resided within him. The head of the association approached Sung Jin Woo, expressing gratitude. Despite the sacrifice of nearly 20 elite hunters, it was better than losing control of the dungeon. What puzzled him was how Sung Jin Woo knew about the double dungeon. Sung Jin Woo told the head of the association that it was the double dungeon itself that summoned him here. The head immediately broke out in a cold sweat. Strange things always seemed to happen around this man. Cha-hain approached Sung Jin Woo to ask if he was okay. Sung Jin Woo was about to say he was fine, but suddenly felt a heavy dizziness. His body swayed before collapsing to the ground. Meanwhile, in a city in Japan, large trucks full of magic crystals were pouring onto the main road. Seeing the crystals pile up, Yuri Mountain immediately grew taller with confidence. With so many magic crystals, reinforcing the barrier became a breeze. No creature would easily escape his grasp with such a fortified barrier. Moreover, these crystals continuously supplied magical energy to his barrier. However, what puzzled him was the strange energy flow around. He shouted towards it, demanding an answer, but received none. He could sense that the energy did not belong to a human. On a distant tall building, a figure praised his keen perception. They were surprised that this hunter had such a good sense to notice them. However, compared to their energy flow, he was still too insignificant. Finally, it's about to begin. Everything is unfolding according to plan, a tragedy predetermined. To deal with the S-class gate, the city has mobilized even modern weaponry, although it seems to have no effect. However, the S-rank hunters from Japan are stationed around the gate. In case the Yuri hunters fail, they'll be the last line of defense. The second priority is evacuating the citizens from Uriolok. It couldn't help but be noted how insignificant humans seemed in the face of such a calamity. Yuri strides through the crystal-filled streets without fear, even excited at the prospect of becoming a national rank hunter. He smiles, opening a small bottle of wine to celebrate with his assistant. "Get rid of the boy. I'm ready to celebrate," he says to his assistant, asking how many S-rank hunters are waiting for orders. The assistant informs him there are only 15 in total, which disappoints Yuri. He wonders why there are so few and if other countries are sending S-rank hunters to help. The assistant explains that even Eastern countries like South Korea have their own S-class gates to contend with, and there's a shortage of hunters worldwide. Suddenly, the assistant calls out in amazement as the gate opens. After the events at Cathermon Temple, Sung Jin Woo finally wakes up in a hospital bed. The young master is visiting him, tears streaming down his face as he tells Sung Jin Woo he's been unconscious for 3 days. During those 3 days, the battle between the two sides continued to haunt him. He suddenly remembers that 3 days have passed. What's the situation with the gate in Japan now? The young master sighs, recounting to Sung Jin Woo what has happened in the past 3 days. When the gate opened, several giants stepped out, each at least A rank. Facing them, Iori remained calm and confident. As an S-rank hunter, he was not afraid of these A-rank creatures. He extended his hand, deploying a barrier of magical force from the stones beneath the ground, gradually sucking in energy from all four sides towards the gate. Then, a massive crescent-shaped magical barrier formed. One of the monsters struck the barrier, but it only made a hissing sound without breaking. Iori smiled contentedly, proud of his perfect barrier that seemed impenetrable. But then, a giant hand reached out, crushing the head of one of the A-rank monsters. It flew off. An even larger giant emerged from the gate. He drew his sword and swung at Yuri's barrier, creating a gaping hole, stunning Yuri. It couldn't be. This was the strongest barrier of humanity, and yet, even with tons of energy from magical stones, it was child's play for this giant. The hunters, who had been boasting earlier, were now being picked up like ants, with horrified expressions, thrown into the giant's mouth to be chewed. At the headquarters of the Eugene Construction Group, the chairman wakes up feeling exhausted and groggy. His subordinates report that he has been asleep for 23 hours and 46 minutes, and if he doesn't wake up within 24 hours, they will take him to the hospital as he instructed. They hand him a document detailing their investigation. According to their findings, there is only one patient in the world who has woken up from eternal sleep, and that is Sung Jin Woo's mother. After Yuri's death, the barrier disappeared and countless giants emerged. Tanks and fighter jets fired at the giants, but it was futile. Modern weapons had no effect on the creatures, and only S-rank hunters could stop them. The elite hunters of Japan withdrew their weapons, intending to destroy the giants' eyes and limit their movement. However, the giants quickly noticed the threat and thwarted the hunters' plans. The hunters found themselves at a complete standstill, realizing that the giants appeared slow, but were actually incredibly fast. Sung Jin Woo sat in front of the TV watching the live broadcast with a sense of foreboding. He knew that soon Japan would become another Jeju Island, overrun by monsters. He contemplated whether he should intervene or not. Suddenly, his younger sister appeared and urged him not to go, visibly worried. Sung Jin Woo comforted her, assuring her that he wouldn't leave. Later, he went to the Burr summoning park, addressing Burr with a respectful nod. Sung Jin Woo found Burr's behavior puzzling, as he seemed to be acting like a character from a historical drama. He inquired about Ji-Ne's condition, to which Burr replied that besides sleeping, she had no other activities. Sung Jin Woo immediately understood why his sister reacted the way she did. The incident at the school gate had deeply shocked her. It had been 4 years since Sung Jin Woo last stopped a gate, and he remembered his own hesitation back then. As Sung Jin Woo contemplated, a car pulled up beside him, and he headed to the headquarters of the Eugene conglomerate. Chairman Inuman handed him a large check requesting Sung Jin Woo's help in treating his illness. Sung Jin Woo hesitated as he had no prior acquaintance with Im Yum-han, but he agreed because Im Yum-han was the father of the young man who accompanied him. The treatment required a rare and precious vial of water, and Sung Jin Woo had to make a decision. With Japan under attack by giants and chaos reigning, Sung Jin Woo knew that time was of the essence. The giants were wreaking havoc everywhere, and only the largest one remained motionless, guarding the gate. It had been 2 days since they lost control, and 31 giants had emerged, causing half the city to be destroyed. At this rate, the collapse of the entire country was only a matter of time. In the Eugene Association office, upon hearing that Sung Jin Woo would go to support Nat Ban, Baek-Yoo-ho was extremely surprised. Despite having witnessed his strength, the monsters in Nat Ban were not at the same level as those on Jeju Island. They had never encountered such large-scale monsters before. Sung Jin Woo was slightly surprised to see this level of confidence from the young master for the first time, coupled with such concern. But it was understandable. Seeing just one strike from a monster tear through Yuri's barrier made it clear just how powerful these creatures were. However, after some hesitation, Baekhyun told Sung Jin Woo, "If you must go, please take her with you." He handed Sung Jin Woo 6 documents and explained, "The common thread among these events is that you haven't participated in any of them alongside her. Big brother, I'm very proud of you. I also want to be on screen with you." Baekhyun's words puzzled Sung Jin Woo. Initially, he had tried to prevent her from going, but now she wanted to go with him. The young master's words surprised Sung Jin Woo. "I trust you. As long as you're okay, I'm sure I'll be safe too." Sung Jin Woo smiled and said to Yoo Jin-hoo, "That's just a joke. Who would be foolish enough to go to Napban and face death?" Then he left the office, leaving the young master alone in sadness. On his way home, Sung Jin Woo was still hesitant. The scenes in the double dungeon made him realize that there were many people stronger than him in the world. He wasn't strong enough to defeat all his enemies, but he still had family. If anything were to happen to him, it would be fine, but if he didn't go, countless innocent people would die. After 3 hours of deliberation, he decided to go. He thought his mother would object, but to his surprise, she agreed and said she would pack his belongings after dinner. She knew that all her children were just like their father. Instead of hindering them, it was better to support them. Sung Jin Woo opened the door to his room, sat next to his sister, and said, "I'm very grateful for your care and support over the years. I know you worry a lot about me. I often confront death, but I always come back safely. So this time, I'll return safely too, because I have a family and you. I have to become the strongest to protect you. Thank you for never stopping me." His sister burst into tears. Although she really wanted him not to go, she understood that with greater ability came greater responsibility. That was the path he had chosen. She could only pray for him silently. Sung Jin Woo reassured her to calm down. He would return soon. Even though he was thousands of miles away, news of Sung Jin Woo going to support Natban quickly spread throughout the country. They held a special press conference where Association President Gong Jung-gi stated that Sung Jin Woo was representing South Korea and sending the strongest forces to support the S-rank gate transmission in Natban. The greater the ability, the greater the responsibility, he emphasized, referring to facing the major disaster of the gate transmission. After a difficult decision, Sung Jin Woo chose to fly over the sea to provide assistance. However, he didn't know that the young master had secretly followed him with all his luggage. Seeing Sung Jin Woo sigh, it was because he was worried about him that he didn't allow him to come along, but he never expected him to sneak after him. Sung Jin Woo chuckled, realizing that was also the reason why he trusted Yoo Jin-hoo so much. Sung Jin Woo was worried about the young master, while Yoo Jin-hoo was also concerned about him. So it was that the S-rank leader Sung Jin Woo and the D-rank vice leader Yoo Jin-hoo represented South Korea to support the S-rank gate transmission due to the monster attack. People were forced to flee their homes, and those who couldn't escape were either injured or killed. Ambulances were insufficient to transport the injured, making the situation worse. Giants were advancing, and if they didn't evacuate immediately, everyone would die there. A military officer urged the mayor and his wife to quickly get on the car to leave, but the mayor refused to abandon his people like that. The officer sighed, but the mayor's determination awakened his sense of responsibility. As a soldier, he decided to stay behind with the mayor to protect the people there. As soon as he finished speaking, they saw 2 giants taller than the buildings emerge, staring straight at them. They quickly fired their guns at the giants, but the bullets seemed futile against them. Seeing the giant's hand reaching towards them, the officer rushed forward to shield the mayor and his wife. At that moment, a black-charged spear flew in, piercing the giant's body and sending it crashing down a few meters away. The officer looked in amazement at the dark figure wielding the spear, roaring loudly. When everything seemed blurry, Sung Jin Woo stepped forward and warned them that this place was too dangerous, urging them to leave quickly. The strong earthquake caused debris to fall around them, and the young master erected a shield to protect against the falling rocks. He told Sung Jin Woo to focus on dealing with the monsters while he would protect everyone retreating. A dark aura emanated from Sung Jin Woo as he released his short blade, emitting a sharp sound. Facing such a powerful giant, he remained unfazed and managed to knock it down. Sung Jin Woo ran on his monster and jumped up high, delivering a blow to the giant's head, causing it to collapse on the ground. Meanwhile, in Hueki, several hunters in a restaurant were discussing Sung Jin Woo's assistance to Hatban in attacking the S-rank gate transmission. They felt he was too arrogant and only survived because of his association with Lady Channel, who enhanced his strength. They understood that the abilities of normal hunters were limited, even at S-rank level. However, Sung Jin Woo didn't have Lady Channel's strength enhancement, yet he dared to attack the S-rank gate transmission. Wasn't he seeking death? Or did he think he was invincible? Hearing this, the person next to them stopped what they were doing, chuckled, and said to the other three, "I'd bet on Scuming Girl building. That kid will survive." His words annoyed the other three, but they dared not say anything because of his power. Thomas calmly looked out the window at the Black Gate transmission. He wasn't afraid, but rather excited. Finally, he had an interesting opponent. On the plane, the reporters were extremely excited. After living for so many years, they witnessed such a scene for the first time. They only saw countless ants climbing on the giants, biting them. Despite their brute strength, they were helpless against the thousands of bites, causing them extreme pain. A frightened girl ran behind a giant figure, and as it reached out to grab her, a shining spear flew in, slicing off the giant's arm. Iris, the knight, had saved the girl, but the giant was still roaring in pain. As the giant was about to retaliate, Iron rushed in, smashing down on its skull, instantly defeating it. The girl peeked out, seeing Iron dancing on the giant's body with a triumphant smile. Iris shook her head, sighing, telling the girl not to be afraid as the eccentric old man was far away. Sung Jin Woo looked on helplessly as Iron became overly excited since leveling up. The officer bowed, thanking Sung Jin Woo for his help, but Sung Jin Woo unexpectedly gave him a thumbs up, telling him he was the greatest. This surprised and moved the officer. Sung Jin Woo instructed the young master to take the officer and his wife to safety. Then he proceeded towards a pile of monster corpses. It was time to begin the real attack. The nation was facing the threat of destruction as giants emerged from the gate transmission, wielding devastating power. Even the strongest hunters, praised as the strongest humans, couldn't withstand a single blow. Skyscrapers were crushed into rubble, and the lives of the people were gravely threatened. The only hope to save them lay with one person and his army of shadow giants. With Sung Jin Woo's appearance, the situation quickly came under control, and the city soon regained control. Not long after, news of successive victories spread back to Association President Taka, leaving him extremely surprised. It far exceeded his expectations. When Sung Jin Woo first arrived at the airport, Taka only wanted him to focus on defense and allocate more time for the country to seek help from other nations. He thought that no matter how strong Sung Jin Woo was, he couldn't defeat all those giants alone. However, he was surprised when Sung Jin Woo refused and wanted to go directly to the front lines to support in eliminating the giants at the source. At that time, Taka thought it was impossible, but now Sung Jin Woo truly turned the situation around. Sung Jin Woo encountered a problem when he had to name the new members. His vocabulary was no longer sufficient, so he simply called them number 1, 2, 3, and 4, along with the letter B and R, totaling 6 defeated giants. Up to now, Sung Jin Woo's attacks have been going smoothly, but he knows that everything is just beginning, and he doesn't know what awaits him inside the S-rank gate. Sung Jin Woo summons his entire shadow army to help the hunters eliminate the giants across Natban. With his surplus of magical power, Sung Jin Woo is confident that he will not fail in the long battle. Although the giants are strong, the shadow soldiers are usually not their match. However, thanks to the giants' continuous regeneration ability, their strength is gradually depleted, leading to their eventual defeat in battle. However, the loss of control over the S-rank dungeons leads to another problem. Other dungeons are also affected and out of control, with low-rank monsters invading the city. The hunters can only evade and counterattack, and by the 7th day, the out-of-control dungeons have devastated the entire city. Fortunately, all the monsters have been defeated. Sung Jin Woo arrived at the S-rank gate, where a familiar voice echoed. Anakowa appeared wearing a sorrowful expression, with everyone else having fled the area, leaving her alone to face the giants in front of the gate. From her words, Sung Jin Woo learned that in this battle, 16 S-rank hunters participated, including Yuri from overseas, with 3 of them sacrificing their lives. In total, there were 31 giants present, including one that had crossed the sea. Giants rarely acted alone, usually in groups of 2 or 3, making them much harder to hunt down, even for S-rank hunters. Their destructive progress was difficult to stop until Sung Jin Woo's shadow army joined the fray, gradually bringing the situation under control. Hoshi and Jermada sat atop the giants' corpses, their faces displaying frustration. No matter how they fought, they couldn't kill the giants. To the shadow army, they were just targets, with only the opportunity to attack after the decisive blow from Sung Jin Woo. After dealing with all the giants outside, only the largest one remained in front of the transmission gate. As Sung Jin Woo approached the transmission gate, he surveyed the surroundings, seeing buildings in ruins with no remaining fires, resembling a ghost city. It seemed like a warning from the system that Earth would become the next demon city. Therefore, Sung Jin Woo came here to ensure that when disaster struck, he would have the strength to resist, constantly upgrading himself to become even stronger. Sung Jin Woo told Hanakawa, "I will go meet that giant. The rest of you stay back and avoid the influence." Hanakawa panicked, saying the other hunters hadn't arrived yet, so they should wait for everyone to attack together. However, Sung Jin Woo pointed out that everyone was already there, only seeing a heap of ruins with Iris shadow soldiers standing among them. King Iron Ba had just finished dealing with the giants, who hurriedly approached and knelt before Sung Jin Woo, awaiting orders. Sung Jin Woo instructed the young master to lead Hanakawa, as Lua was about to become a battlefield, and then commanded his shadow army to advance. Sung Jin Woo felt the mana enveloping him like a suit of armor, so he saw no need for defense and continuously launched attacks. However, despite being undefeatable, he still had weaknesses. Sung Jin Woo noticed that his opponent only raised his hand to defend when the soldiers were about to attack his eyes. Sung Jin Woo ordered Cancer to fly up and spread his wings, while the giant bird also flapped his small wings towards the guards. Together, they charged towards the guard's eyes, causing him to startle. As the guard dodged, Iris, riding on Cancer's back, drew the sword of the Demon King and shot a fire beam at the guard. The guard quickly evaded and swung his sword towards Cancer, shattering the shadow giant. He chuckled, but suddenly realized that Iris had jumped off Cancer's back without him noticing and was running straight towards him on foot. With a flash, Iris struck him directly in the face with incredible speed, piercing his eye and causing him to roar in pain. Sung Jin Woo grinned, realizing he had pinpointed the guard's weakness. He transformed into shadows and appeared behind him, summoning numerous weapons from a small gate under the control of his master's will. They bombarded the guard's eyes, causing Hanakawa and Yu Jinhu to widen their eyes in astonishment. It was no longer a battle between hunters and monsters, but but seemed like a battle between monsters themselves. Under the relentless attacks from Sung Jin Woo and Burr, the guard staggered, about to collapse. Sung Jin Woo took advantage of this and unleashed a chaotic sword strike at his eyes, causing a burst of purple light. Sung Jin Woo shouted to Burr that it was time for the finale, and Burr, laughing, told the emperor that there were no more guests. Then he leaped into the guard's eyes from the outside. Sung Jin Woo continued to use the chaotic sword strike from the inside as Burr wreaked havoc. The two cooperated smoothly, causing the guard to spew blood, and with a loud crash, the invincible giant fell. The shadow soldiers of the Shadow King were truly useful, able to teleport thousands of miles to fight, attack the enemy with thousands of troops, and thereby find the enemy's weaknesses. Countless invincible shadow giants were exposed to vulnerabilities and slain by Sung Jin Woo and Burr. Strangely, the system didn't show the boss of the dungeon being defeated, indicating he wasn't the final boss. Moreover, his body didn't emit black smoke, so his shadow couldn't be extracted. As the young master rushed over to celebrate, Sung Jin Woo raised his hand to stop him, seeing Burr flying out of the guard's mouth. The guard's monstrous strength had overwhelmed Burr's aura, making even Sung Jin Woo unable to sense it. At that moment, a powerful stream of mana blew out from the transmission gate, sharp as a knife, leaving a cut on Sung Jin Woo's face. He suddenly remembered the young master couldn't withstand this storm, luckily protected by Iris. Sung Jin Woo realized the transmission gate was absorbing the giant's mana, so he left the young master outside alone and stepped inside to assess the situation. As he rushed in, he was stunned by the vast expansive space inside, making it easy for the giants to enter. Moreover, laughter echoed from the echoing corridor, making one shudder. As the enemy approached the door, still in a cheerful mood, Sung Jin Woo advanced to meet the owner of the laughter, only to see a small giant bound by 5 rings. Seeing Sung Jin Woo, he chuckled even more happily, cursing the damned leaders. Sung Jin Woo approached him, and he grinned even wider, telling Sung Jin Woo that he was right on time. He asked Sung Jin Woo to help him remove the shackles, as he knew the leader's plan and needed to quickly inform the other kings. But when he saw the approaching figure, he was taken aback. "Who are you?" Sung Jin Woo clearly didn't know him, but this was the first time he had encountered a monster that could communicate normally, unaffected by the system's limitations. Through dialogue, Sung Jin Woo learned that the leaders were eternal enemies of the kings. The imprisoned one was actually one of the kings held captive here. The leaders wanted to use him as a spark for war. He also told Sung Jin Woo a horrifying piece of news. Both the leaders and the commanders had been spying on him. But with his current strength, Sung Jin Woo still couldn't confront them. To stand against them, he needed to expand his power. He told Sung Jin Woo to unshackle him. He would help him become stronger. But with only one-sided words from a stranger, Sung Jin Woo completely doubted him. "Let me make you believe," he said to Sung Jin Woo with a smile, chanting a spell like a chant. Sung Jin Woo didn't understand, but then 3 windows appeared on the system. "The giant kings sent an honest oath to you. Once accepted, neither side can lie to each other until the transaction is cancelled." Sung Jin Woo hesitated, feeling like he was dealing with demons. Should he accept or not? But for the sake of truth, he decided to accept the system's notification. The agreement had been made. Until the transaction was cancelled, neither side could lie to each other. The giant king told Sung Jin Woo to unshackle him, and he would help him. Sung Jin Woo was about to express his complete trust, but before he could finish his words, he was interrupted by the transaction blocking him. Sung Jin Woo was surprised by how quickly the transaction took effect. He asked why the giant king was different from other monsters and could freely converse with him. This question annoyed the giant king. "Do you dare to compare mere mortals to the kings? Control them. They are just remnants who fled from the transmission gate, defeated by the ruler's army and enslaved. Their consciousness is destroyed. But the kings are different, with strong wills that even the ruler cannot destroy. So he patiently waits for the opportunity to escape until he meets Sung Jin Woo. Sung Jin Woo inquired about the army the king mentioned that the rulers sent to the human world to cause chaos. The giant king's malicious smile revealed their intentions, to use him as a spark for war. The transmission gates appearing were their preparation for the upcoming war. They aimed to turn Earth into a battlefield once again, where they could clash with the kings. Sung Jin Woo was bewildered by the revelation that releasing monsters was to turn Earth into a battlefield. The giant king explained that their goal was to infuse mana into the human world. If monsters were the disaster brought by the transmission gate, then mana was the blessing bestowed by it. Most hunters and even ordinary people thought so. Magical stones and crystals containing mana were the highest source of energy. Now, to bring an energy that didn't exist in the human world here, using the blood of monsters containing mana was the best method. Therefore, the rulers decided to use captive prisoners, whose mana became increasingly concentrated, proving the effectiveness of the monsters' cruelty. In some areas, they wanted to strengthen the world with mana, creating a world that wouldn't be destroyed even by war. When mana was strong enough, the demon lords and rulers would descend, starting a life and death battle. Earth, the humans' surviving place, would soon become hell. The king warned Sung Jin Woo that there was no time left. If their meeting were exposed, neither the emperor nor the rulers would sit still. Sung Jin Woo couldn't understand why the king kept saying they were targeting him. The giant king replied that Sung Jin Woo's current power wasn't his own, indicating that his original master had betrayed the kings and rulers to become their common enemy. Only he stood by Sung Jin Woo's side and established an alliance. Sung Jin Woo suggested that if the king truly wanted to support him, he could become his shadow soldier. The king hesitated for a moment. Sung Jin Woo asked if he would stand with humanity. Seeing the king silent, Sung Jin Woo became more certain of his thoughts. Due to the sincere transaction, the giant king couldn't lie and admitted that regardless of which side he stood on, humans were creatures that needed to be eradicated. Seeing negotiations fail, the giant king said nothing more and attacked Sung Jin Woo, who had already anticipated it. He dodged the attack and struck a blow to the king's chest. Although the king promised to help, Sung Jin Woo couldn't overlook it because he was the true defender of Earth. Releasing the giant king might cause a disaster. The king laughed and told Sung Jin Woo, "You are the real disaster." Sung Jin Woo tightened the knife in his hand, and before the king died, he cursed Sung Jin Woo. The battle between the current residents and the mixed inhabitants grew fiercer, and the world became more brutal. What Sung Jin Woo wanted to protect would surely turn to dust in the night of war. Sung Jin Woo coldly said, "We'll see." With the king's head falling, the system announced that the dungeon master had been defeated, one of the 9 original kings. The giant king was defeated, and due to the excessive experience, it would take some time to process. Then, a series of upgrades appeared. Unfortunately, it couldn't be turned into a shadow soldier. Sung Jin Woo only took some spoils of war and left. The giant king's body turned into a spirit, flying up to a luxurious villa in Hoki. A helicopter landed on the spacious lawn in front of the door. National-level hunters, Christopher's family, stood there with a displeased expression. The deputy director and Mrs. Channel came without prior notice, claiming it was important. Christopher thought they wanted him to withdraw the attack. Since a new transmission gate appeared in the east, he decided to decline. Christopher, caught off guard, listened as Ms. Chanel warned him of potential life-threatening danger he might face in recent times. As a national-level hunter, he stood atop the food chain on Earth, one of only 5 individuals worldwide endowed with the power to annihilate galaxies. Channel's prophecy regarding Christopher's peril enraged him, deeming her jest excessive. He even contemplated immediate retribution, if not for his gratitude towards her. However, Channel remained unfazed, explaining that her recent dreams depicted a group of men surrounding and vanquishing Christopher. Unperturbed, Christopher displayed indifference, asserting his status as a national-level hunter, believing himself invincible. Even if Channel's words held truth, he remained clueless as to who could aid him. After all, who could defend a national-level hunter? Channel suggested that Sung Jin Woo might be the one to help. Sung Jin Woo stepped out of the transmission gate after slaying the Giant King. Despite the Giant King's demise, residual spectral energy lingered, further solidifying Sung Jin Woo's resolve. It was clear that the Giant King must be completely eradicated to prevent any potential malevolent schemes. Bound by enchanted shackles, this individual remained formidable. Releasing them to roam freely would be uncontrollable. Sung Jin Woo knew he had to become even stronger to thwart the plot of turning Earth into a battlefield for the Kayas. The news of the complete destruction of the Giant King quickly spread worldwide, igniting fervent discussions on social media about the potential emergence of a new national-level hunter. This anticipation echoed the sentiments from the events on Jeju Island, not only within South Korea, but also among people worldwide. Meanwhile, a giant that crossed the ocean met its demise at the hands of hunters from New Zealand. The chairman of the Japanese Hunter Association, Mr. Taka, turned himself in, perhaps due to guilt or remorse for his actions on the other side of Earth. In the eastern part of the United States, the government hosted a celebratory event to honor the success of the domestic hunters who conquered the S-rank transmission gate. Some of the hunters participating in this campaign were currently engaged in lively conversations. Thomas approached and reminded them of their bet. The three of them immediately pretended innocence and asked, "Bet on what?" Thomas leaned in close to the bald man's face and remarked, "Your tie looks quite nice, just a bit out of place." His words made the man's face pale. The assistant stepped forward and reported the list of guests invited to the International Union Conference, including the Hunter Association's Jin from South Korea. Thomas smirked maliciously. "Seems like he's coming to the United States soon. I can't wait to meet Sung Jin Woo, the one who conquered Japan's S-rank transmission gate." As Sung Jin Woo returned from his missions across Japan, turning all creatures into these shadow soldiers, everyone was astonished. Even S-rank hunters couldn't subdue the beasts, who were now under Sung Jin Woo's command. His abilities as a hunter were beyond exceptional, earning him praise as a leader among the guild members. At that moment, Hanako approached, handing Sung Jin Woo a phone. After hearing something that left him stunned, Sung Jin Woo was informed by Hanako that he had urgent matters to attend to at home. Though the caller on the other end didn't specify the issue, Sung Jin Woo knew for certain that the situation regarding his father's health had worsened. Seated in Yoo Jin Hoo's car, Sung Jin Woo was filled with worry. It was the first time he felt such panic since his mother's distress at the Hankorea airport. The assistant escorted the young master back home, informing him about the chairman's condition, which had deteriorated to a critical stage, leaving him in a perpetual sleep. Despite the young master's desire to rush to his father's side, the assistant restrained him, explaining that the hunters couldn't control the oppressive force surrounding the chairman, which only worsened his condition. Yoo Jin Hoo was consumed by deep regret, feeling utterly useless in such a serious situation. The assistant handed the young master a thick notebook, revealing it was what the chairman had been working on before collapsing. As Sung Jin Woo flipped through it, he was stunned to find numerous articles and photos of himself, a reflection of his father's habit of collecting his achievements and accolades, much like Sung Jin Woo's father. Seeing the extensive documentation, including news of the Gain Guild's trip to Japan for relief efforts, Sung Jin Woo couldn't hold back his tears. The assistant reassured him that the chairman didn't just love him, but had immense expectations for him. As the young master turned away, he felt a sudden force strike the back of his neck, but upon turning around, he found nothing there. He walked away alone, his figure gradually fading into the distance as the assistant called him home. Sung Jin Woo, who had been silently lurking, appeared at the bedside of his father, administering the remaining drops of healing water and offering them to him to drink. Meanwhile, Yoo Jin-hoo's sister visited the hospital to see their father. Upon entering the room, she noticed a familiar figure by the bed. To her surprise, their father had awakened. As Sung Jin Woo quietly descended to the lower floor, he whispered, "Belated happy birthday." Meanwhile, Yoo Jin-hoo, at a loss for what to do with his free time, considered reaching out to an old friend for some company. The first person that came to his mind was Kahain, leaving him feeling bewildered by how swiftly love had swept into his life, even across the vast distance to America. At the private residence of the national-level hunter Christopher, on a stormy night, he was awakened from a deep sleep by a powerful magical force. He stepped into the living room, feeling an unusual silence. Christopher threw a glass of wine to the ground, which shattered silently, sending chills down his spine. He regretted not heeding Madame Channel's warnings during the day. The dream seemed to hold truth. Shouting out in fear, he was met by the appearance of a handsome young man and two terrifying shadows behind him. The man looked at him with a sinister gleam in his eyes, and Christopher struggled to comprehend his words, feeling as if he faced a monster. The man gestured for silence, and Christopher, feeling belittled, erupted in rage, his body erupting into strange flames, transforming into a monstrous, one-eyed giant. As he mercilessly fought and destroyed the creatures, reducing the mansion to ruins, Sung Jin Woo helped Natban conquer the transmission gate, and the nation celebrated their hero. Crowds filled the streets, eager to catch a glimpse of Sung Jin Woo, waving enthusiastically. Burr emerged from the crowd, addressing Sung Jin Woo respectfully as the king. Though initially caught off guard, Sung Jin Woo adjusted his demeanor, realizing the need for dignity and respect in his new role. On the plane, Sung Jin Woo encountered Adam from the matchmaking agency. Sung Jin Woo knew it couldn't be a coincidence. Adam was delighted to see Sung Jin Woo again. Even though they had only met once before, he felt honored. However, he didn't know that it was because Burr had reminded him not to call Sung Jin Woo by the wrong name this time. The king's thoughts couldn't be swayed. Sung Jin Woo thought Adam had come to advise him to immigrate again. Before he could speak, Sung Jin Woo declined, but Adam said it wasn't about that. He opened a video on his computer for Sung Jin Woo to watch, showing intense fires and firefighters unable to extinguish them. These were not ordinary fires. They would instantly turn anyone who touched them into ashes. Adam explained that the fires were caused by the national-level hunter Christopher in an attempt to extinguish his own massive fire. Hoki mobilized 1,800 firefighters and 14 top sorcerers. After the fire was put out, they found Christopher's body in the rubble of the mansion along with the prime suspect, speculated by the hunter's agency to be Sung Jin Woo. Suddenly, Adam's body was lifted up. Sung Jin Woo clenched Adam's hand in anger, squeezing so hard that his veins bulged. He gave Adam a fierce glare, accusing him of daring to joke with him like that, insinuating that he had grown tired of living. The bodyguards wanted to intervene, but Adam stopped them, struggling to explain to Sung Jin Woo that the person in the video had emerged from the dungeon and might not be someone he knew. Sung Jin Woo, surprised, asked about the dungeon. Adam explained that the person's magical waves resembled those of a monster and immediately attacked their S-rank hunters. The explosion at the Hunter Management Agency a few months ago was also caused by him. Hearing this, Sung Jin Woo released Adam. Adam lay flattened on the floor, panting, and told Sung Jin Woo that after defeating Hunter Hoki, the suspect disappeared despite the agency's secret investigation, leaving no trace behind. Therefore, he became the prime suspect.